Hello and welcome back to the Golf Ireland pod. I am delighted to be your host, Stephen Murphy, and welcome back for another episode to recap all the action from all the golf across Ireland and abroad the last week. We also have a great guest this week with James Corcoran joining us. He is manager of the High Performance Department at Golf Ireland. And after such a successful year, it's been great to pick his brain. But first, as always, we will look back, and we have two great wins to bring you, which is always exciting news. We will start with Sara Byrne, who was over in the States playing for the University of Miami. She continued her fabulous year with her maiden collegiate win at the 46th Annual Pat Bradley Invitational in Lakewood Ranch. Byrne's win also helped the University of Miami golf team secure its first team title since 2018. Which is absolutely amazing. And also they had Clandeboy star Rebekah Gardner on the panel. So two Irish interests there. Absolutely fantastic win for both Sara and Miami, and Rebekah involved as well. So well done to all involved there. Brilliant news. And also Kate Lanigan. She came from 5 shots behind to win the RNA Student Tour Series in Rome, which is absolutely scintillating golf. A clutch up and down on 17 for par. Helped claim her title there as well. So 2 wins there from Irish abroad. Absolutely brilliant. Well done to both Kate, Sara and Rebekah Gardner there as well. And that sums up the action from the past week. I will now throw it over to my fantastic chat with James Corcoran. I'm now delighted to be joined by James Corcoran, who is the manager of the Golf Ireland High Performance Department. James, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. How are you?
Good, Stephen. Delighted to be on with you. 2 of my colleagues from the High Performance Department have already been on with you, so I'm feeling a bit left out. So it's good to be here.
And they didn't warn you off. They didn't say don't do it.
No, I think you treated them quite nicely. So yeah, they were positive enough when I said I was coming on.
Glad to hear. Are you enjoying the great weather we're having at the moment here in Ireland?
Yeah, God, it's been some downturn in the last couple of weeks now. Quite wet here in Carton House today. But yeah, I suppose we had a good run there in early September with some nice hot weather, so it was bound to come at some point.
Absolutely, yeah, and hopefully better weather to come as well. But James, I want to pick your brain on your day job. You are the manager of the Golf Ireland High Performance Department. Can you talk us through a little bit of your day-to-day kind of work and actually what goes into being the manager of the Golf Ireland High Performance Department?
Yeah, I suppose we're kind of coming to the end of our extremely busy period. Kind of during the summertime, say from kind of end of April, start of May, up until around now really is very busy with all the trips we would organise to international events. So at the moment we're kind of wrapping up. We've the 2 World Amateur Team Championships on, the men this week, the women next week, and we have the Kerry Cup match with the Metropolitan Golf Association on this week as well. And then we're going to have a couple of players heading over to Argentina at the end of the month to play 2 events down there. And then that kind of wraps it up from a tournaments point of view. So we'll really just be looking to kind of move on to planning for next year on that side of things, trying to get, accommodation, flights, that sort of thing kind of in the books before Christmas as much as possible. And I suppose we've kind of moved on now to our sort of selections. So a lot of selections for panels for next year have been done. A good bit of work would go into that in terms of stats from performances, coaching reports, that kind of thing. And then I suppose we would have a lot of different policies in place, selection criteria for teams and coaching panels, breakdowns of points for orders of merit. So we'd kind of be looking at all that stuff again at the moment with the view to, whether we need to tweak anything moving into 2024. So kind of we would look at that as a high performance department and then talk with various stakeholders, committees and players and that sort of thing, just to kind of have a closer look and see if there's certain weak points that we need to firm up on for next year. And I suppose the main other kind of thing happening at the moment then would really be our applications for funding from various bodies like Sport Ireland, Sport Northern Ireland. They are kind of coming around now, so kind of in the middle of filling out our applications, giving reports on how our year went, I guess from a competitive point of view, and kind of giving these organisations a flavour of what we're looking to do going forward to, I guess, justify the funding that we're looking to get into next year.
Yeah, just a few questions on that. So obviously the first question organising these trips, especially to faraway countries for these golfers, is the goal to make it as seamless and easy for the golfers as possible? Because obviously they have to worry about performing.
Yeah, that's it. As far as it's possible, we want to kind of hand over. So generally, we would have like a team captain or a manager traveling with, say the team gone to the Abu Dhabi this week for the World Amateur Team Championship, have their captain Niall McSweeney and coach Michael Collins. So like we would make as many arrangements as possible from here beforehand, hand that over to the captain, and then keep the fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong for them over there. So far, I've heard nothing bad, so that's a good sign, obviously. But these things, like, you can do as much work as you want, but things with travel, can go wrong from time to time. So it's really just being at the end of the phone, I suppose, if something does go wrong, so that you can help or do as much help as you can if like a golf bag goes missing, or if a transfer doesn't show up, or there's a problem with car hire, or whatever it may be. The World Amateur Team Championship is actually kind of one of the easier events to organise, because we just book the accommodation, organise the flights to get the players and staff there, and then everything else pretty much is looked after on site by the organising committee. So that's kind of one of the easier ones to look after, thankfully. There are like a lot more complicated ones where we would basically have to look after like everything from finding hotels, finding car hire, booking practice tee times, figuring out good restaurants to go to for the group when they're there on site, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. It's been a fantastic year for golfers representing Golf Ireland this year. Some of the performances has been incredible. Do you look upon those results and take a sense of pride and just a sense of amazement also at the talent level of some of these golfers that we're producing at the moment?
Yeah, like it's been a phenomenal year on course, really, for golfers at all levels of the program. From with Sean Keeling and Olivia Costello winning the Scottish Boys and Girls Championship back in April. Sean obviously went on to get selected for the Junior Ryder Cup a couple of weeks back. Anya Donegan qualifying for the US Women's Open and performing very well over there. Liam Nolan winning the South American Amateur, the Brabazon Trophy. The four guys getting picked for Walker Cup. Beth Coulter and Anya Donegan getting picked for the Vagliano Trophy earlier in the summer. So yeah, it's been one of the most, like, I've been involved in golf for about 10 years now, and it's definitely up there with the most successful years we've had on course. And it definitely, just going back to talking about applications for funding, it definitely makes the work we do looking for funding a lot easier when the golfers are doing what they've been doing this year on the course.
Definitely makes your job a lot easier in that sense. And one thing I have to say I wanted to bring up, because it's for someone who's come in sort of this year and spoken to these this level of golfers, the mental strength and the mental fortitude of their games is such an underrated factor. And I was speaking to you beforehand. I was over in Paris this weekend watching the rugby, and obviously a hugely disappointing result for Ireland, but you've seen clips since, and they're taking it in their stride. They're taking it. They seem to be in great spirits. And some of these golfers have said the same thing, that you stick to your process, and if the results fall your way, that's great. But if not, you keep sticking to your process and you move on. Is that something that, again, you take a lot of pride from? Because it was so impressive to me this year, speaking to so many of these, especially young, talented golfers, and they just seem so level-headed, and especially with that part of their game.
Yeah, like it's a critical part of any sport. I suppose not to get too high or to get too low at any time. And as you say, kind of trust the process. Like, a lot of our golfers would have done work with the likes of Leanne Sharp over the last couple of years, who would work in sports psychology for some of our panels, and she's gotten great feedback, and I know she's done great work with various players, and it seems to have paid off for some of them this year in particular. But yeah, it's definitely, it's something that is a key part of the game. Like, you just need to, if you hit a bad shot, you need to be capable of putting that out of your mind and moving on to the next shot, and hit a good shot next time, hopefully, and I suppose stop the bleed as quick as possible if something is going wrong. Absolutely
brilliant. And let's talk about the professionalism of the players themselves. Let's talk about the World Amateur Team Championships, which is taking place currently. We've got Liam Nolan, Matt McLean and Alex Maguire, who are taking part and representing Ireland. They're 3 Walker Cup players. They've all had phenomenal years, and they seem to me as professional as any professional players out there. And they're still obviously amateurs. Is that something again that you've seen progress over your time here with Golf Ireland?
Yeah, like there's a lot more. I suppose the culture around it was probably very different. 10 years ago. Like guys are a lot more kind of full-time amateurs, I suppose. Either mixing education with their golf, or like Matt has been out there for most of the year, just kind of playing in elite amateur events. And you can definitely see, like, for the top guys in the amateur game, there is like a jump to the professional game, but like a lot of them are more than capable of going and playing professionally. It's obviously a different type of pressure. You're playing for money, playing for your livelihood. But like, a lot of the guys are able to make that jump up. We've seen like Tom McKibben in the last couple of years has gone from being, an extremely talented young amateur to winning on the DP World Tour this year. John Murphy obviously made a great leap to the Challenge Tour this year, has had a bit more of a challenging year this year on the DP World Tour. But like, we'd be confident he'll be bouncing back in the next year or two. So it kind of shows those guys were able to make the jump pretty quickly from amateur to pro. So it kind of shows how tight the difference in standard is. Like the best guys in amateur are often just preparing themselves to make that leap into the pro game. And I guess they need to be acting in a relatively professional manner in what they do in terms of their preparation, their coaching, all that sort of stuff. So when they do make the change to professional, that it's not a big shock to the system. That's kind of one thing I think has happened a bit more as well in recent years, that guys are traveling to probably more events than, say Golf Ireland organise X number of events for them to go to, but a lot of them are traveling to more events outside of Golf Ireland where they're making their own arrangements. So like little things like having to decide, do I want to fly at this time? Will I hire a car here? Is that hotel okay? Like having to make those decisions when they're amateur is probably a positive for them long term, because like when they turn pro, often that's the kind of stuff that they need to be able to make decisions on. And like previously, it could have been more of a challenge for players because like everything was done for them with trips, say 5 or 6 years ago. But now they're having to make those decisions as amateurs, which I think can only be a positive for them moving into the pro ranks. Now, it might seem like a small thing to some people, but I've definitely had feedback previously from players who, were just told, like, show up to Dublin Airport at 10 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and everything else just follow along for the ride kind of thing. Which kind of we found wasn't kind of beneficial to them long term. Like, it was definitely helpful to them at the time as an amateur, but I suppose we have to be looking at the kind of longer term picture and helping them to develop as people, for when they do move into the pro ranks, if that's what they decide to do.
And again, the guys going over and the women next week as well, I feel like there's almost an expectation for them to perform well and almost, at least get in the top 3 in the podium. That seems to be the case now, again, with the quality of results we've had this year, that, anyone going representing Golf Ireland not only, has the potential to feature and win, but almost are expected to. And is that fair statement? And even with all the great golf around the world, that Ireland is up there with the top of them.
I think so. Like, golf is obviously like a sport where, like, it's different to say athletics, where if you run X time for 5,000 meters, you're likely to run in or around that time next week. Obviously, give or take a few different factors, but golf from week to week is obviously quite variable. Like this week, the men's team at the Eisenhower could go out and shoot the lights out, and that could well be enough to get them up towards the medal finish. They're obviously relying on other, say the US team or the French team or whoever could also shoot the lights out, and that all of a sudden bumps the guys down. I think it's really, from our point of view, we feel like any given week our best Irish golfers go out and play in elite amateur events, that they're capable any given week of producing a really strong result. I think the World Amateur Team Championships for this week and next week, obviously the standard is extremely high. Like, you're coming up against a lot of like high, incredibly high standard of golf from different countries. We obviously, the GUI and the ILG would have sent men's and women's teams to Mexico in 2016 when the men and the women both achieved bronze medals for the first time. And that was, that was an unbelievable performance by both the men's and the women's teams that week. I think any given year at the World Amateurs, we're hoping that the teams perform strong enough to kind of be in and around the top 10, I suppose, would generally be the goal. And, if things go right, hopefully finish higher and get towards the medals. But it's kind of hard in the Worlds to put that expectation, that demand. You need to go there and achieve a medal at minimum, because there's just so many different variables at golf. Like, say, this week, the guys are out there playing in 30, 35 degrees heat, which for some of them is, a massive challenge, which I know preparation has been done with them in recent weeks to try and, mitigate that challenge. But that's something our players wouldn't be as used to as, players from the States or players from Asia. So just, as I say, there's just a lot of different variables that go into it. We'd be confident any given week that our guys can compete with the best in the world, but it's hard to say, next week go out there and, win the event kind of thing. It's just, I suppose, giving them the tools to perform as best they can, and just hoping things go to plan then when they're out there.
I know I definitely would struggle in 35-degree heat, James. I definitely wouldn't be good in those. But that's great, James. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for giving us a backdrop into your day-to-day and what goes into being manager of the high performance department. Really do appreciate it. And yeah, we'll have you on again sometime soon. Thanks, James.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Stephen.
And thank you again to James Corcoran there for joining me here on the Golf Ireland pod. Fascinating to learn what goes on there behind the scenes at Golf Ireland. So thank you again to him. And we touched on it with James, but just a reminder that Liam Nolan, Matt McLean and Alex McGuire are currently playing at the World Amateur Team Championship, which got underway this morning at Abu Dhabi Golf Club. So you can check Golf Ireland's social medias and website to keep up to date with the scores there. So I wish again the best of luck to the lads. And next week the women's team will be taking on the World Team Championships as well. So you can keep an eye out for that, and we'll cover that next week in next week's podcast as well. So that sums up this week's Golf Ireland pod. Thank you so much for listening. As always, we really do appreciate it, and we will catch you all next week.